more and more mature.
Yes. Yeah. Until you experience it, you don't really
You don't know.
know. Yeah.
When people hear my voice on the phone, they don't know how old I am. They
Oh,
never guess that I'm over 80.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Checking to see if everybody is here. Althea admitting and Leslie Ann readmitting.
Althea is here. Leslie Ann was here earlier.
Okay.
Leslie Ann is here. I think Willard. I don't know.
I missed, I totally did this program and I missed who was going to be doing the interview. Or do we just have time for the readings?
I think we'll just do the readings because we have nearly 12 readers. So if there's anything, we could talk after the meeting.
After. Okay. All righty, so I'm gonna go hit record. Hi, welcome. It is the 17th of November, 2024, and this is our Author of the Month Poetry and Prose meeting, and our Author of the Month for November is Vishnu Gosain. We are honored to have him and for his most recent collection, Sonia, that we will have on review for today. We know we have a lot of readers, so I'm going to just jump right in. And I believe I'm going first, but Mutilal, do you want to open first?
No, you go right ahead and you open and read.
Great. So it's officially open. Vishnu, thank you so much for being here and thank you for allowing us to enjoy these readings and to review your book. I'm still making my way through the novel and my reading is Extract 1, Rattan and the Homemade Stove. One day he brought home what looks like a square iron box with 2 large round holes at the top, and the longer sides opened. He explained nothing to anyone, and no one asked anything. Over the next few weeks, he took home an iron tank, a piece of hose, a new bicycle pump, 2 small cylinders with bolts in them, and some other parts. On evenings, he spent invaluable time alone doing one thing or the other related to the stove. Sometimes he was soldering, sometimes cutting, sometimes pounding, sometimes simply staring at all the parts he had put together. A few times he covered everything with a brown bag and never even peeped at the parts for days. Sonia asked him one day, "You finish looking at them old iron you bring home? Don't leave them here. Throw them in the river. Somebody might bounce up their foot on it." One hard stare, and she sensed she was an intruder. He answered, "I just thinking what to do next. I just thinking. And thinking this take time. It's not like making a roti." "And who tell you roti easy to make? You could make one?" It was not a conversation he wished to pursue, so he did not answer. Smart man. After many weeks of working on the project, he said, "Sonia, come see magic. You're bound to feel surprise." "What you going to do?" "Is a surprise just come." Sonia was unsure of what he meant. Perhaps she was going to see a homemade magic show, something like what Maggie, the magician, showed the children at school. He looked anxious. She was curious but a little scared. Their children joined them, and they too were anxious and curious and skeptical. "Magic?" Chris said. "Pa, you could do magic?" Dolly said. Dad looked from a safe distance away. "Not me and that, I stay in far." They all seemed a little fearful of what was taking place. Sonia read their faces. "Just stay quiet," she said, holding her 6-month baby in her hand. "And look at what your father doing. He's a big man, and I sure he know what he doing." Ratan was indifferent to these comments and shook his head sideways, adding a grin to complete his rejection of her words. He sensed Sonia was not too sure of what he was doing, but he knew and was fixed in his work, though wrinkles appeared on his forehead. It was supposed to be a secret, so how could she know? He asked himself. In spite of that, and the other thoughts in his mind, there was that focused air about him, a man intent on succeeding. Ratan opened the tank, poured kerosene into it, then sealed the tank with a rubber cap. "Sonia, the matches. It's time to light it. Let me show you something I make myself. You go really like it." There was a broad triumphant smile on his face. He had created something, and now he was going to demonstrate it. Softly, he said to himself, "I ain't no engineer, but I tried to make something good. Now everybody will see it. Hope I get through. I really want to get through." It was a strange stove, unlike the white ones that were sold at Kasim's store, mostly at Christmas time. Those were tall stoves that came directly from England and the United States of America. A few people had already destroyed their chulas and happily replaced them with these modern kerosene cookers. Ratan was trying to switch to a stove without paying so much money, but he didn't have. And then he didn't want to borrow from that thieving moneylender from Windsor town, that Juban. Ratan was anxious, and as he clutched the matches, his hands trembled. He willed this to work. It must light. I can't see why it wouldn't light. Everything done like what I see in the other stove and them. And I follow the pattern. It bound to light. It bound to light. It must light. Sonia could not follow what he was doing. He really make a stove? I never hear more. I can't believe this. A stove that come from England and America? You joking, Ratan. Big joke. She looked behind her several times uneasily, trying to make sure there was a place to run if conditions demanded that. And then, with the baby in her hands, she would run slowly, so she needed all the space she could get. He making a stove? You think this would work, man? You think so, man? You know anything about this kind of thing? Is in a sugar factory you working in, you know? Stove come from away. You forget that or what? She had to raise her voice because of a loudspeaker was announcing the date and the time of a political meeting to be held later in the week. In front of Auntie Mama's shop of tassa and steel pans filled the air, and the sounds, as soon as the speaker was finished, the sounds only died when the vehicles transporting the equipment had gone further up in the village. All of their children stood by innocently, like their mother, with the baby in her hand. The older ones were ready to run as fast as they could. Everyone was anxious to see magic, and magic they all saw. It was not the kind they expected, but they did see Ratan's version of magic, as Sonia said. Musia and Timothy, two neighbors, stood watchful, both cracking their fingers near the doo-doo mango tree. A slight breeze swept Musa's hair in front of her face, but she made no attempt to push it back. Timothy took 2 steps forward, observed what was going on, and returned to his original spot. Ratan was the lone person smiling and confident. He knew his efforts were going to pay off, and after this minute, he would be a respected machinist. He pumped air into the tank and observed the curious ones when he was finished. He saw their uneasiness but said nothing. Slowly, he scratched another grain of match from the 3 plumes box, but forgot to turn on the switch. He stood still. He fumbled, and the flame went out. In another attempt, again he scratched a match while the fuel was flowing. The wind blew, and the flame went out. He opened the box of matches and scratched another grain. Immediately, what should have been a little flame suddenly exploded into a bright, energetic one. By this time, everyone was smelling the kerosene, while the fuel itself was flowing on the ground, spreading all around the stove from a line leading from the tank. 1 or 2 channels crept away quickly and quickly disappeared in the ground. Then, vroom! That is all. Thank you so much for allowing me to read. Mutila, I'll hand over the meeting to you officially.
How do you spell the
Thank
last?
you, Gosha. You know, I was waiting for the boom.
How did you spell that last word?
It was VOOOOMMM.
Boom. Yes, I was waiting on that boom, and I could have, and I see Vishnu there. He was smiling. That was very well read, Gosha, and set the tone for today. And let us continue with some more, shall we say, explosive readings. And I now ask Heather to come in, and Heather would be reading Uncle Karan. Come in, Heather.
Thank you, thank you. One day he made a dramatic entry. Ratan had died 2 days ago, and the funeral was arranged for the following day. At about 7 o'clock on the night before the funeral, the villagers, as was the custom, began gathering at the house for the wake. 2 holy men of the neighboring villages, Panditsu and Charlie, came to chant verses from the Ramcharitmanas. The majority of people came either to play cards, gamble for real money, drink coffee, or eat buttered salt biscuits or cheese sandwiches given freely on this night. It was a custom, too, that whoever came had to be fed. They got drinks and fried aloo and sada roti. Many, mostly ladies, came with solemn faces, crying and screaming loudly as they neared the funeral house. They sat with Sonia and Auntie Mama on the green wooden bench and chairs in the kitchen. There they reminisced about Ratan, his goodness, how they would miss him, and they even pinpointed what time of the day they would miss him. These were very comforting words to Sonia, and their description that Ratan was indeed a good man forced her to cry, even to scream loudly at times. And while all this was going on, in came Karan, tall, dark, dressed in white, black belt, groomed wavy hair, black shoes, a bag with long straps filled with clothes. Oh God, he cried out, oh God, and then he was silent. He walked with slow, heavy steps to the gray icebox housing the dead until he was transferred to a coffin. He dropped his bulging black bag and stretched himself to get a better view of Ratan through the small square glass at the top of the icebox. And then, brother-in-law, you're dead and gone, eh? Look how you're lying down quiet like you're really dead in this stupid cold icebox, eh? Eh, brother-in-law, you, slap in the coffin, gone, slap, and leave, slap, my sister, slap, and the children, 7 slaps. Oh God, brother-in-law, what gonna happen now, eh? Oh God, brother-in-law, what gonna happen now? Oh God, brother-in-law, look how you're dead, how dead you're looking. It was at the point of the thunderous slaps and screams and the shouts that Auntie Mama emerged from the one-room kitchen in the back of the house, where she was preparing a pot of black coffee to be served with the buttered biscuits. Aye, Karen, aye, she placed her arm with frail, loose-hanging dark skin around his waist. Come with me, boy. Didi, he said. Didi, brother-in-law dead. Who going to see about Sonia now? Who going to see about she 7 children? Who, eh? Who? Auntie Mama, much older and weaker than he, found him too heavy to manage. When she persisted in asking him to come with her, he turned on her. Leave me, I say, leave me. She continued to hold him, but his second, leave me, I say, leave me, forced her to leave him. Now that she stood an arm's length away, he continued, brother-in-law, you're dead and gone. Who going to drink that nip of punch and rum with me when I come by here? Brother-in-law? Who? Again he pounded the icebox. 2 relatives, strong wrestler-type men, stood at his side but allowed him free expression. They were watchful, ensuring that he didn't break the glass at the top. When he said all that he wanted to say, one of the relatives said, okay, Karen, come here, come and sit with me. But my only living brother-in-law gone and dead, He paused for a second. Who going to drink that nip of punch and rum with me now, I don't know, one of the men said. My only brother-in-law gone and dead. That is true. Here, come, Karen, sit on this chair and watch him. Karen glanced at the chair. But this chair too low, That is for children, not a big old man like me, Yes, yes, one of the men said. You're right, it's too low. I will get a higher one for you, real high, like a stool. They brought another chair, not a higher one for him, but Karen was in no position to determine that. Good, good, taller one, Karen said. Nice. Karen allowed himself to be led, sat on the chair with his neck bent downwards, and drifted into a quiet period. There, half asleep, he snored softly. One of the men shook him on the shoulders. You want to sleep, Karen? I going on my bed. I'm tired. 5 minutes later, he was fast asleep and snoring loudly on his bed, a bed he and Dad slept on while he lived with his sister. After the funeral, Karen continued to stay with Sonia. She never asked him when he was returning to his family, and he never volunteered the information. There were times when Sonia felt she should ask him, but she resisted the temptation. She decided to play a wait and see game. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. That was very well done, And I want to say that for somebody who grew up in the Tinal in the country area, I think that Vishnu really portrayed that scene there with Karan and with the how you was carrying on. Oh God, brother-in-law, you leave me and gone. And this is something that I have experienced. I have seen that many times in the weeks, and sometimes it just is comical. And Vishnu have portrayed that so well. He had written that so well that the scene is alive. It's alive.
Well,
Although
one thing
sometimes it's very
when my grandfather died and he was waked right in that penal house, I remember the ice box with the little glass window at the top that we would look through and see his face. So that really spoke to me as well, that passage. Thank you, Vishnu.
And then sometimes in the week the drunk men they remember all kind of things. Who go drink that nipah punching with me? And the lamentations. I think Vishnu did that very well. So thank you, Vish, and thank you, Heather. You certainly did that extract justice. Our next reader is supposed to be Willard, but Willard just informed me that he is not well. So we would leave that later on if I would try and print it out and see if I could read it, but we're moving right along. And Cynthia would be reading about Sonia and her homemade stall. You see, as we go along, we see how Sonia is trying to cope with bringing up these 7 children with her husband gone. So Cynthia, take it away.
Thank you. Sonia and her roadside stall. Sonia made a decision days later. She told Dolly and asked her to keep it a secret. Dolly couldn't keep the secret and told Chris, who told Dads, and the trio kept it among themselves. One day, while the children were doing their chores around the house, Sonia left the house. They all knew where their mother went. When she returned, they calculated she had spent 2 hours with Hare's mother. It was something unthinkable when Ratan was alive. Perhaps Sonia knew exactly why she went, but her children didn't know the details. After she and Hare's mother discussed her thoughts, she told her children, I think I'm going to start selling. I'm going to build a stall by the roadside. What you say, Ma? What you say? Chris said, and his tone seemed to suggest he didn't approve of her plans. Sell? Like Bodhi mother or Diana nanny in the schoolyard? Dad said. Yeah, like that. When Karan heard of the thrust, he said, Do what? And that was the limit to his interest in the project. He said nothing more and never asked about it again. Sonia, in a quiet, relaxed way, without looking at anyone, detailed her plans. I will go to Chauhan Market to buy provision on Saturdays. Things like eddos, potatoes, some cooking fig, so people could make soup. Then I might buy a little pepper, some half-ripe fig, tomatoes, and a little yam. And you know what too? It always have extra things in the garden, so I will start selling them too. Yes, it will bring in a little money. She searched her children's faces. I will make a small shed just by the road near the top of the hill, opposite Premchand's house. And then from there I will sell. People always passing up and down, so some of them bound to buy since plenty of them stopped planting things. Karan doubted the venture would succeed. Auntie Mama made it quite clear to Sonia that she had no business head, so her venture would fail, that only Butch had a business head. On hearing the word Butch, Sonia got angry but said nothing. Auntie Mama tried to compromise. I will give you a job to sweep out the shop every morning and evening if you want. Sonia said, once I get something to do. But have no shame in that. Work is work. I have to help myself. Auntie Mama promised to discuss the issue with Butch and report to her the next day. 3 days later, Auntie Mama still had not reported. Sonia had spent most of her savings and had to act before her savings ran out completely. Bright and early on this Saturday morning, before villagers began filling water from the public standpipe near Dubra's house, Sonia, a little skeptical, said, I'm going to Chauhan to buy some things. I'm tired waiting for my sister to tell me something. I'm going with Timothy mother. He does buy every time, so she knows. Close to lunchtime, a blue Vauxhall taxi, laden and low at the back, drove down the little hill. The car swerved from end to end of the road to the other to avoid the long crisscrossing channels. Mausia and Rita's mother peeped from their doors to see the laden taxi creeping down the hill. They said nothing, but soon withdrew their heads. When the driver came out, he said, This road bad for so. First time I see road so bad. We fruit. Like the government forget all you or what? All you don't have a councillor here? We fruit. Chris, Dolly, and Dads carried the goods under the house at first. The goods were packed in neat sugar bags, so taking them to the room behind the gallery was not too challenging. Chris said, Lucky is the front step. If it was the steep back step, he was in real trouble. His mother said, Yeah, it's hard to carry up, but not hard to eat. Dad's was going to say, What you big belly, not mine. He said nothing for fear this time he would have gotten a slap from his mother. On hearing their mother's comment on eating, Chris and Dad smiled under their chins because they were the biggest eaters in the house. Sonia, who was walking close behind, said, "All the silk fig going upstairs in that room where you and your Uncle Karan sleep. Leave the cooking fig and the other things downstairs." Dolly smiled in relief because she was carrying the cooking fig upstairs and they were really heavy. The silk bananas were half ripe, they understood, and had to be ripened before they were sold. All the other bananas were green, so could not be eaten in the raw stage. Cooking bananas should never be allowed to ripe and had to be sold almost immediately. Dad said, "Ma, I could take a fig to eat." "Except you is Mr. Gary Pig that does eat any kind of fig. Green, yellow, or red," she said. "When them pig eat, they doesn't even leave the stain self." She laughed because she knew no one could really eat green bananas. Pigs don't look at what they eating, they just eat. There's a nation like that. Dad said, "I only asked, I'm not that greedy." Chris said, "But you have long tongue though." "No, it's short and pink." Sonia hoped that the stall would succeed, and Dad placed a smile on her face. For the first week, 15 customers bought. When the second week came, the number increased by 2. Like the earlier time, the boys ate some of the bananas she bought. Then she had another idea. She said, "I'll get Karan to make a box cart, and Chris and Dad's will go and sell the goods Phoenix Park, Basti Hall, and Dow Village every Saturday." These villages were not too far from Esperanza, so Chris and Dads felt excited about it because selling away from home would give them a bit of freedom too. That's the end of my section, and I enjoyed it, so I hope you did.
Thank you, Cynthia. We certainly enjoyed that, and
You're
as the
welcome.
story continues, we see that Sonia is becoming inventive in finding ways to um, take care of her children. I myself, I am a market boy. My mother used to sell in the market and I used to sell with her. And one sentence I remember she's saying the same thing that um, Vishnu says in his book. It had no shame in that. Okay, that we're going to sell in the market. It had no shame in that. Another thing that struck me too is that when she was telling the boys, "You can't eat the fig," my mother say, "You can't eat out the profit." So that not because we were selling the market, I could get a new shirt every time because we need to make a profit. Okay, so that was lovely, and it certainly brings back memory for me and for someone who could understand the situation, who grew up in a situation like this. That was very realistic and very well done, Vishnu. So I will just pause for a while, invite comments from the audience. Comments, please. Go ahead, Altia. Altia, I need to unmute. Altia, you need to
Yeah.
unmute, right?
Yes. I don't have a comment, but I have a question. I was looking forward to the extract on Auntie Mama, because the extract that I'm going to be reading will start with her. And I was hoping to learn a little more about this character that I'm going to be reading about. So hopefully someone will read that extract before I read my part, Motilal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Krish, can you do that for me? Krish Samaro? Krishna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Krish, I cannot access my thing there. But if you could tell me what page Auntie Mama is, I could read it, please. Or Krish, or you could read the extract.
Check.
My book. Oh, Father.
See, I have it on me. Auntie Mama,
Well,
Auntie Mama.
we
They are
can
just
we can find it later as long as it comes before I read my piece, because I think it's important for me to have some background about this woman I'll be reading about.
Yes. Okay, Krishna,
all
okay
right.
on that.
I can't access what page I had taken it. It's on the computer somewhere, but I have to minimize it. I'll get back to you. Let me get back.
Okay,
Yeah.
Chris, so okay, so we're moving right along, and I want to any other comments, please? Okay, so moving right along, we want to ask Frank who would read Uncle Man. Take it away, Frank.
Okay, Uncle Ban. Many months after Ratan died, Ban began visiting his sister regularly every 2 weeks. He came with the express round the road bus on a Tuesday at about 7:30 in the morning. His right shoulder was always weighted down by a large brown parcel of pastries and sweets bought from Sheik's Cafe. As soon as he arrived, he handed the parcels to Dolly. Here, share this for everybody and make sure nobody get more than the next person. Boys and girls must get the same amount and no greediness. Sonia was ecstatic and full of life when Ban visited her. She talked, she laughed, the two cracked jokes, and Sonia stayed awake all day instead of taking a nap after lunch. The two cooked many things they both enjoyed when they lived at St. Anne's Village. One day after he left, Sonia said, "He just like my father. He tall and he red, just like Pa." She smiled. "My father was such a nice man. I mean, he will bring fish from the sea, clean them and season them with bandania and even cook them sometimes. But sometimes he was very moody. And sometimes too, he used to call Ma Bacania Queen." One day, Ban and Sonia made soup with eddos, yam, cassava, green bananas, dumplings, wabins from the river. On this day, Ban ate 2 large platefuls, to which he added a little mango cuchilla and some pepper sauce. "Nice, Sonia. I know I help in peeling the things, but you does really cook like Mai. You remember Mai have a special hand in cooking? Well, it looked like she give you that hand. I mean, when you eat my food, your belly full for days. But when you eat Auntie Mama food, you can't tell she is Bacania daughter. It's so different. Like she always in a hurry to cook. Must be because of all the children and grandchildren she have," Sonia said. "And somebody must be crying for food when she cooking." "Must be," Ban said. Then the two whispered to each other, "So how business going?" "Somebody doing wickedness to the shed by the road." "Oh, what do you mean?" Ban stretched his neck to see if he could see the road from where he was sitting. He didn't, and faced Sonia again. One morning, I went to sell, and I find a shed flat down on the ground. Really? Dogs can't do that. It is somebody. It have to be somebody. Somebody spitting you. Ban remained thoughtful for a few seconds. But you living here since you married, you're good with everybody. So who would do a thing like that? Sonia said, I can't be sure, but one day I could find out who the crook is. Was hard work building it back then, Ban said, looking up the hill, trying again to get a glimpse of the shed. He didn't. Yeah, Chris and Dad's help and Karan did help too. In the end, it come out good. So I start back selling the next day. Ban shook his head in disappointment. But the shed making though? I just get something. You're managing good then? Chris and Dad's just sell on Saturday and Sunday in a box cart. Really? That good? They go Phoenix Park, Dow Village, and Basti Hall. All that walking? The two of them? She said, in the end, Dolly does add up the money. It does be okay. Well, what do you mean? I does make a little something. Ban smiled. That good, I'm glad to hear. Once you're doing good, I happy. But you must give the boys a little pocket change so they wouldn't find it hard to go out to sell. I just do that sometimes, she said. Wait, give me a minute. I'm coming just now. She returned almost immediately with a large brown envelope, which she firmly held by the flap. Ban looked on, not knowing what to expect. First, the coins issued out in a flood. Then a few red notes slipped out, and then green ones followed. Sonia smiled. It have 100 in here. This is what you lend me. Lend you? No, I didn't lend you. I gave you. But still, take it. You're helping out enough. No. I don't want it. Take it. You go have use for it. I have some inside to buy goods on Saturday. Is enough. And then in 2 or 3 fortnight time, I go make some more money. It's not plenty, but I just try to stretch it. I'm glad you're doing good then. I'm glad to hear that. She stacked the money once more in the envelope and gently nudged it towards him. All right, I'll take it then, he smiled. You must put it safe upstairs for me in the bureau drawer, and when I really want it, I go ask for it. Sonia had bought that bureau with her husband's last salary given to her weeks before the funeral. That bureau was very important to her, and she cherished it, never slamming the drawers, never leaving it dusty. She even kept some of his clothes in the largest drawer in the bottom. Ban, you is something else, yes? So that was an enjoyable excerpt to read. You know what impressed me about it is, you know, in the old adage in creative writing, he did more showing than telling. You know, for example, in the beginning and throughout the excerpt, he writes, his right shoulder was always weighed down by a large brown parcel of pastries. You know, that's showing to me that got me involved in the picture he's painting. So I was impressed by the amount of instances where he was doing more showing than telling, including the significant amount of dialogue he wrote in there. So it was very enjoyable reading that.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Indeed, throughout the entire novel, um, Vishnu has been doing more show than tell. And I just want to comment on two things. One, that the family support. And again, this is something that I grew up knowing in my village. And my village would be a similar village as what Vishnu is writing about. And the part where Ban says that, Lenyu, I give you, right? And when she insists that, that you take it, he says, well, here what's happening. You keep it upstairs in the bureau drawer. And when I really need it, you will give it to me, right? So what he is doing there, he he doesn't want her to feel that that he's given her this money just like that. But
Yeah.
you just keep it there for me. It just shows how much he feels for his sister and how generous he is. Also, I'd like to mention too, I know what is a bureau. I don't know how much people know what is a bureau, but I don't know if Frank, you want to tell them what is a bureau? Frank, you're muted. Frank, you're muted.
It's a bureau, isn't it? I mean, a dresser with a mirror and drawers with a wing on either side with mirrors. Isn't that what it is?
That's right. Sometimes it have wings on either side, and there's a big square mirror, and there's drawers. And there Sonia is keeping some of her husband's clothes, although he's gone, in the biggest drawer, which usually is the bottom drawer. Thank you again. That was a delightful read, Frank. And before we move, I'd like to ask, Krishna would come and read Willard's piece. And before we do that, I would ask for any comments.
Well, the part where he says, "No, you keep it until I really need it," that really demonstrates familiar love, a genuine familiar love. So it's quite a touching scene right there.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Frank. Any other comments? Anybody want to comment? Okay, so now we will bring in Krishna Samaru, who would read Willard's piece. We always love to hear Willard, but Willard is sick. So Krishna, take it away, please.
Yeah, okay. So this is largely for the benefit of Altia, Auntie Mama. So Auntie Mama is Sonia's sister. So we heard of Karan, that's her brother, Ban, another brother, and here is the sister. The two sisters whispered for a few seconds, and for a while no one heard anything. The children were happy that perhaps they had come to an amicable understanding. Most important, there was going to be no more quarrel, and this was very pleasing. Suddenly, Auntie Mama's voice came screaming through the creases of the whitewashed board wall. Then why for you have so much children? Why for? Now you can't feed them. Is why you should have give away not one, but 2, 3 of them. What? What you saying? If you did give away 2, 3 of them and send all of them to work, things would be easy for you. Or send them in the orphanage. But you want to make a string band of children. Sonia raised her voice only once. Is my children, and Ratan want them to go to school, and that's what I doing. And starving or not, I'm not giving away any. School me tail, Auntie Mama said. That is you, Didi. But what Ratan dead and gone. So it's you now to catch your tail. Yeah, see, he leave your paw. Sonia fired back. At this point, she told herself that she was not going to let her sister hurl harsh words at her. I go do what I could do, but I don't want to be hand to mouth. I want to stand up on my own 2 foot. And that is why God gave me foot for. And I had to think. My father was a strong man, and I going to be a strong woman. Auntie Mama was not going to be outdone. She was usurping her position. She was older than Sonia, and that gave her the rights to lecture her. You want them to go to school, but I have 10 and they're working and living good. And they're working hard too. And they're happy and they ain't go to school. See what I'm talking about? See? Auntie Mama beat her chest with her right hand while she was boasting. My butch running the shop and doing good. I too want them to go to school. Ratan would have sent them to school. Ratan dead and gone, Sonia. And he left you a pauper. I tell you that already. That's why you're catching your tail. But he want them to go to school. Sonia heard the word pauper, but let it slip by. To do what? To learn big talk and to play white people and work in big office? My children doing good and they buy car and truck and they ain't go to school and they happy like puppy. That is your children, but mine different. Auntie Mama paused and looked at Karan's shirts hanging on the line between the almond and Dudu's mango trees. And I'm sure Karan doesn't get to send money home because you're always draining him out. Sonia opened her mouth to speak, but Auntie Mama was flashing out her words like lightning. I'm sure about that. It looked like the more you have, the more you want. Your eye too big for your head. I hope Ban not giving you any money too. Sonia did not respond to her, but she said to herself, my big sister telling me off like this, boy? The children were now sitting on the bench when the kitchen door was flung open and slammed shut by Auntie Mama, who stormed out like a hurricane in September. It's not going to look nice. Let me tell you what is not going to look nice. Careful when all kind of people come in by your house, you know. Sonia, who followed her sister out, was shocked. Which people, did he? Which people? Auntie Mama did not know Sonia was close on her heels and heard her. And so Auntie Mama was forced to respond. Nah, don't worry about that. Auntie Mama must now defend her accusation. Don't worry, my tongue just slipped. Nah, tell me what you just say. Tell me. I hear strange people coming by you. Remember, you have a girl child and a big girl in the house. Yes, Didi, I know. Careful. Sonia was dumbfounded. People? What people? People trying to help Chris. It's people who work with Ratan in the union, eh? You see them too, eh? Auntie Mama flew past everyone under her house, her orni hanging off her shoulders, almost kicked the chair that stood in her path and nearly stepped on Dad's racing crab. Dad looked at her with hard eyes and said something unpleasant under his breath. Dolly sensed he shut out an obscenity, but said nothing. Of course, if she asked him, he would say, me? You hear me? What I say? Even if Dolly had heard, she would not have repeated it. Auntie Mama marched up the hill and soon vanished from sight, her orni trailed like a kite tail behind her, while her long dress ballooned in the breeze. She even slapped Timothy's reddish-brown goat that was feeding on the road. The goat echoed, meh, meh, and dashed for safety. And having reached a short distance away, turned around and looked at her. That's Auntie Mama for you.
Thank you, Chris. You know, that was indeed a theatrical reading. I'm sure
Yeah.
Willard would be very pleased with that performance. So Willard, we didn't miss you much. Chris did a very good job of your piece.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask for what we have noticed now is the difference between the different family support between Auntie Mama, who is Sonia's big sister,
Yeah.
and Uncle Ban, who is her big brother. So we see a difference there. So just with that, I would like to ask for some comments before we move along.
Well, I
Go
think
ahead.
she seems to be quite a character, an older, domineering sister, and you get the picture that she's very controlling. And this is why I needed to know who she was, because the section that I'm going to read shows her in a different position, and I this background information was very revealing about who she is and what will become of her, and what will happen to her later on in the story. So thank you for reading that,
Yeah,
Krishna.
precisely, Althea, precisely.
Yeah.
But don't give it away. We will hear it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we will certainly hear it. One other thing I want to point out, there's a word that in that reading, why for? Anybody want to say what that means? I know what it means. Why for? Okay. Why for you did this? Why for you steal? Why for is why did you? Okay, so any other comments before we move along?
Yes, Mutila, I wanted to say, well, first of all, I mean, Krishna, that was a fantastic reading, but I go back to the word. I go back to the story, to the novel. And it's just wonderful. I mean, that scene was just so much tension, but also going back to what Frank said in terms of that Vishnu is like showing and not telling, in terms of the character of who Sonia is, and of course her sister. And going back to what you're saying, Mutilal, in terms of the language, string band of children. That's why God
Yeah.
gave a foot for hurricane of September. I mean, it's just rich, wonderful story, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to read it. Congratulations, Vishnu. I love this. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and if I may comment, string band of children was a regular expression again in my village, because in those days they didn't have any birth control. So my mother had 9 and my neighbor had 12. And I don't know. Had I want to tell me how much your mother had? And there is a talk about string band of children and why you don't give some away. But my mother used to say, no, these are my children and I will take care of them. Because I have seen children who go to live with their aunts and all that, and sometimes these children became servants.
What is the
For
literal meaning
example,
of string band? What is string band?
well,
It simply
what
means
it
a whole
meant then
set.
is a whole lot,
It's a
a
whole
lot
set.
of, a long, a length of children. If you compare it with a rope or a length,
I know
meaning
the
a lot
expression.
of children.
The expression itself is string band or string bank or what?
Yes, string band, B-A-N-D.
Oh, string band.
Band.
String band. Huh.
Yeah, a whole set now. Especially we say steps, making them in steps.
Uh-huh.
Like in my case, we were made in steps. One each year. Each year.
Yes,
So
because
if you line them up, if you line us up to take a photo, you will see the steps.
Yes, because another thing, I remember that clearly, that there used to be this. Well, we had our normal, what we call the village midwife. We used to call her the chamine. And then later on, there was a government nurse who was in the village, and she started to deliver children. And there she was. I heard this, I must have been about 11 or 12, She was saying, well, tell my mother, why you having all them children for? And she was trying to introduced to, as opposed to birth control and all that. And my mother tell her, well, you know, that is God walk. She said, that is not God walk, that is all your blasted stupidness. And I remember that. So that's just something that came to mind. Thank you. Okay, any other comments before we move on, please? Okay, well, moving right along. As the story continues, I want to ask Natasha Gray. Oh Lord, we're in for another dramatic reading here. And Natasha will read Village Gossip and Timothy. Take it away, Natasha.
Thank you. Shocking news of another kind began to spread through the village. Dolly heard bits and pieces and guessed that only adults knew the whole story, but they were tight-lipped about it. Karen and Sonia spoke in hushed tones and in the absence of the children. Musia, Sonia, Boone's mother, Rita's mother, and Hare whispered about it on the peak of the hill, a regular meeting place near Ram Nani's boli tree. It was said, and this was all Dolly knew, that Timothy Bujan hid in the bushes on the banks of the river late one evening and peeped at the girls as they splashed about naked. It was said he even spent time looking at the girls changing their clothes behind the water grass. Dolly shared what little she knew with Chris and Dad. I think he holds Sheila hand, and people say that bad and they get vexed. I think it have other things he do too. Sheila was Mr. Garib's niece, who often holidayed in Esperanza. You sure? Said Dad. But you just hold my hand and nobody doesn't say anything. Because you is my brother. But I still holding Hannah. Dad's, a bit confused, looked at Dolly directly in her eyes while he was chewing a piece of yellow guava. Dolly said, you too small to understand. But I big, said Dad. I have a thin mustache and hair growing out my nose. That's different, she said, exploding in laughter. Why you didn't say you have hair on your head? 'Cause I smart. Yeah, I know. Too smart for one person. Well, don't get vexed with me, no? I just trying something. And Dad laughed and went on his way. Dolly assessed the situation in her own way. You know, Chris, it looked like everybody afraid to let me play with Timothy. She and Chris were standing under the Dudu's mango tree. Really? But he had to win nothing? So far, but he might encourage me, Dolly said. I kind of figure out there's a lot of wrong things he doing, so they might not let me play with him at all. Okay, I never like him anyway. Dolly said, yeah, I know. He kind of managed because he good looking. Timothy's parents still did not hear the news, although it was the #1 topic for days. Garib's wife knew about the rumor but didn't tell Garib. She feared that in his anger he might challenge Timothy, even though he was too old and weak to fight anyone. But his anger might just overtake him one day. It was Mahesh and Hare who added fuel to the fire in a way. They tried to put Timothy's behavior in context, but this incensed the villagers further. Their understanding of Timothy was based on what they knew of town people. It came to them because they worked in the towns. Mahesh plied his taxi from Chauhan to Sandu, and because he interacted with his passengers, he picked up a lot of information about urban life, especially since a lot of hustlers were now earning a living in Sandu. Hare ran a busy garage in Windsor town, a town bustling with nightlife. They both saw Timothy as a danger to the young ones. Hare said, Timothy does do mechanic work in Sando. And Sando, a lot of things does happen and nobody doesn't say anything. People don't even notice it. It's an everyday thing. Sando was larger than Windsor town. It was the second largest town in the island, and it was a good distance from Esperanza. There were more than 10 schools there, thousands of people, mostly strangers from the outlying villages and smaller towns who worked and shopped there. Sando, in a sense, was like a meeting place where newcomers to the town, a bit misled, displayed antisocial behavior, especially near the seaside, where there were several accommodating makeshift clubs and hotels. A lot of things does happen, Sonia said. Like what? Man and woman from the village does get on bad and wild, Hare said, in a shameless way. And that is the kind of company Timothy must be following. Really? I think so. For true? Exactly what I say, Hare said and explained with a little more detail. Good people does forget who they is and get on wild. He paused for a second. Tongue life, I tell you. Tongue life. He paused and smacked his lips. Is the worst thing. This new information shocked Sonia, who added, Oh, I didn't know that. She shook her head slowly as she processed the news and compared it with the nightlife in Windsor town. So it could mean that Timothy had full of vice, all kind of things he did pick up in Sando. Mahiz, from experience, said, I not saying so for sure, but it looking so. Remember, I used to work in Sando regular one time and even drive taxi down there. With those words, Mahiz shook his head in dejection and looked around to see if anyone was hiding behind the bully tree. Thank you, Vishnu, for writing an awesome work and allowing me to be part of the reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for that dramatic performance. And as a South boy myself, the what we used to call the wharf in San Fernando used to be notorious for all these activities that Vishnu is hinting at. And I remember once there was a girl she was a big woman in our village, and I heard my mother say that she does work by the wharf, meaning that near the San Fernando wharf. So I asked I said, Ma, what happened? She does catch fish. She says, shut your mouth and go, boy. Thank you again. And anybody have any comment? Okay, so if there's no comments, we're moving right along. And I would like to ask Alisa Janki, and Alisa would be reading Dolly. Take it away, Alisa. Alisa, are you here?
Hi, good afternoon. Well, can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, Alisa. Your piece is entitled Dolly. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is extract 7, right? So I have it now and it's kind of
Alisa, check your mic. I don't know if you're muted.
okay. Could you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Hi, could
Alisa.
you hear me? Okay, all right. So I'll be reading.
Alisa, are you ready for us?
Yeah. Could you hear me?
Go ahead, please. Yes, we're hearing you now. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I'm reading extract 7, Dolly, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Dolly,
Yes.
okay. Dolly, who walked on the train line to Windsor town, was now understanding the true value of education because she herself was attending Ghani's commercial school situated under a house. She said it was a good school, and once you passed all the examinations, you would get a good paying job in the sugar company. They just hire people there, but you have to qualify yourself. You could be a secretary or a bookkeeper. True dolls, Sonia said. Yes, ma, is the same place where Mr. Rack does work. Mr. Rack, Sonia became fully alert. He was not someone anyone could trust because of her experience with him. Nevertheless, she would tell Dolly nothing at this time. Your father go really like that to know. He go sure be happy. So this crop nearly finished. You think you could get one by next crop? It does take time, Dolly said. 2, 3 years, but once I start, I will finish. Oh, and then I will get the work. That will be very good. There were many offices in the large administration building of the sugar company. Ratan had seen the long, flat building every day because it was close to where he worked as a machinist. He had admired these clerks who worked there, neat and well dressed with their swinging ties. Sonia began to show interest in Dolly's education. She had first objected to her attending a school in Sandu, and it was for that reason Dolly did not attend Lapeak High School. With the passage of time, Sonia had changed her mind, and Dolly was pleased with this and was now seeing another side of her mother. Sonia said, I hope you don't start looking for boyfriend because you figure out nobody and go see you in town. Me? Not me, ma. I not in that. You're saying so now. But once you in town and you see your friend and them do and you see what your friend and them doing, you will start. Not me, ma. Not me at all. I don't like boys, especially boys like Timothy. And if I find out you're lying, all school done for you, and I ain't joking, not even your uncle Ban go save you. You listening to me good? Yes, ma. You hear what I'm telling you? Ma, I tell you, I ain't go lying. I going to school to study. I not looking for a boyfriend. Just walk up the train line with Mr. Booge, Gills, and them, and you're sure you ain't go be in any trouble. They is good Gills, and Mr. Booge very strict, so he children can't play the fool. Yes, ma. And talking with boys have to be in school. Yes, ma. Dolly was not happy with the regular warnings, but she listened to them. Booge's two girls, in whose guiding hands Sonia placed her, had demanding boyfriends, but neither girl told on the other. In fact, they often broke school and met the boys under the Red Bridge, and there they spent time and returned home at the same time with the other students. Sometimes they swam with the barest of clothes. At other times, the boys brought clothes for them to swim in, and sometimes the boys made a cook on the river bank. One day, a few weeks after Dolly started attending school in Windsor Town, she decided to talk to Chris. Pa said to me, Dilar, you have to go to school and pass your exam. It's the only way you will get all the big jobs because everybody in town educating themselves. And if you don't, you will get left back. Big jobs? Chris said. What do you mean by that? Ma say I have to pass my commercial exam, and that is what I'm studying for. But she say, Pa, say if the rest of we pass Cambridge or London GCE examination, we doing our good to ourselves. It mean we in the lineup to do better and to get the big jobs with big pay. But no, but Chris, Uncle Ban say if we don't have money, we have to have our education. Is either one of the two. Else we go catch we royalty, we go suck salt. He even say he can be nothing but a watchman because he have no education. See, and Uncle Ban know what he talking about. He doesn't want us to be like Uncle Karan. Oh God, not like he's we uncle, but he's big trouble. See what I mean then? Dolly shook her head from side to side, and that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to read this extract.
Thank you, Alisa. That was very well done. And as a school teacher, as a girl who left Gasparillo to go to school in Cuba, you want to make any comments about Dolly going to school?
Well,
Or you want to offer any advice to the young girls?
Well, like how Sonia telling her, study your work and do have no boyfriend. Like I could identify with that because I was a teenager in the 1990s. And when we were going to school, that was like a very common thing that parents and teachers used to tell us. Well, I went to two secondary schools. I went to Holy Faith Convent in Cuba and to Marbella Senior Comprehensive, which is now Marbella North. And like when I was a teen, that was a very common thing. I mean, I don't know if parents are still trying that now, but back then I know that was, something parents always telling you, go to school, study your work, don't get no boyfriend. If you do have an education, you wouldn't progress in life and that kind of thing. So, and I mean, parents say it out of good intention, so I could understand Sonia pressing this child to study her work because she wants her to do well and to not have to be poor or not able to support herself and whatnot. And you find the parents who know about poverty and whatnot, they tend to encourage the children to educate themselves so that they wouldn't have to depend on anybody. And well, I came from a single parent home, so I mean I know how hard times could be. And I wanted to study and whatnot and get educated so you don't have to depend on anybody. So I could understand when Sonia telling her daughter, well, make sure and she telling Dolly, well, make sure and go and learn your work and do study no boyfriend and thing. And notice how she keep insisting and she being very strict. Now that point about the girls, Mr. Booge's daughters, how they would go to the river with the fellas and break beach and line with fellas. Well, you can't get away from that. Young people, when they have strict parents, especially some of them, they like to do stupidness like that. Because I mean, I had, it had girls in my school who would do things like that, right? But so like sometimes, like how Sonia thinking, well, I could send my daughter with Mr. Booth's daughters because he's strict. Him being strict doesn't necessarily mean that his daughters, would be strict as well. And this piece it's very, very relatable. And this, kudos to Mr. Gosain for writing this because it's something very relatable and it's something that really happens.
Okay, thank you, Alisa. And the other school teacher in the house, she posted in the chat, what's that, boys? Study books, not boys. So I don't know if Natasha want to say something. Natasha?
I'm good.
Okay, Leslie Ann? Okay, I'm not hearing. Natasha, are you muted? All right, it seems as if you have lost Natasha. So moving right along, our next reader would be Leslie Ann. No, oh, okay. Our next reader was supposed to be RT, and she was reading Chris, but RT has a death in the family. RT brother died yesterday, so I do think she coming on. So I will read RT piece, Chris. Okay, I'm gonna find this somewhere. Chris, okay, are you hearing me, everybody?
That's it.
Okay, here is the extract 8, Chris. Meanwhile, Chris continued to work in the cane fields weighing cane. He didn't exactly like it. Not that the work was hard, but he didn't like some of the people around him. He said to Dolly one day, a cane farmer asked me to put in a heavy weight for him. What? What is a heavy weight? Instead of saying the cane weighed 2 tons, say it weighed 2.5 tons. That means what? Make the load look heavy, so the farmer will get more money when the fortnight comes. To cheat for him then? That what he asking you to do? Exactly. He say he go pay me good when the fortnight come. And what you do? Dolly asks. Oh God, don't tell me you do what he asks you to do? She held her breath and waited for his response. I ain't do nothing. I leave him standing and start walking away. But he stopped me. He paused for a second. The man say he go pay me good. I will get about 3 times the pay. And that was real money he was talking about, you know. Dolly continued to look at him anxiously and perhaps angrily. But Dolly, something run through my mind. I said to myself, crop coming to a close. And if Mr. Shul and them catch me, I go lose my work and he go never give me a work next year again. So I watch the man and smile and walk away. Dolly, the man was sure I will not do what he wanted. So he shouted out, you go regret this. You know, young boy, it's a lot of money I've given you. You know, money you wouldn't even dream to see. He paused. Dolly, tell you the truth. Go ahead. I was thinking. He paused. It's plenty money, but and the man was right. It was big money. I would have get money that would help you out big time. He shook his head sideways. But you know what, Dolly? I afraid Ma would ask me, Chris, where you get that money from? And that would mean trouble. She would have sent me marching back with the money. You're right about that. And she would have dropped a few slap on you too. Yeah, I know that too. Chris, like Dolly, understood somewhat how their mother was struggling to make ends meet. He knew that if he were caught, he would be fired, and he didn't want that. Definitely not. He would lose even the little he was getting. The offer was very tempting to Chris, but he survived the temptation. Chris always brought home his pay packet sealed. His salary was $18.56 safely inside. That was how well he contributed to the family upkeep. Sonia told Rita's mother, Chris sacrificing his future for his brothers and sisters, and I hope they're grateful for that. Yes, Sonia, that is so true. You see how we have a good mind? Sonia said. He take by his father. You know, Dolly, Sonia said one day, when they were having a conversation in the kitchen behind the house. Chris' salary come in real handy, and he don't take even a cent out of it. She nodded her head. He and Uncle Ban helping out real good. Otherwise, I don't know how we would have make out. At least we put in food. At least we get in food. But God is love. And then there's the planting we do in home, does help out. And from the fowls and them, we get in eggs and meat. And then are selling the extra eggs. Directly, Dolly told Chris one day, and most of all, Ma does spray hard every day. I know, Chris said. She just like Pa. She does spray with a lota of water and a flower in she hand by the journey. It does give she strength. Thank you. That was extract 8:6. Okay, thank you. Any comments, please? Okay, we are moving along nicely here, and I could relate to that, because these cane wearers, these fellas used to make a lot of bubble, and that is one of the reasons why Caroni went bust, because there used to be too much of bubble. I even remember fellas, people tell me they work in Caroni, and when they want to make overtime, they throw a piece of iron in the machinery so it go break down and they could make overtime. And it's a very sad thing with the work ethic that we have in Trinidad. We still have that. We still have that. We recently had a lot of floods in Pinal. We were affected badly. And sometimes it's because of the work ethic. They don't clean the drain. And when they clean the drain, they clean it halfway and they leave the muck and all that right on the side, and they do not pick it up, and it goes right back into the drain. So I want to ask anybody who want to comment on my excellent read, or if they want to comment on the content of what I read. So the floor is open. Anybody? So,
Motilal, what strikes me about that is that how they would get punished if they took illicit money from the mother. Sometimes the values are more important than the money. In today's society, everything is money. Money is God, and God is money. But back then the values were such that there are some things that are more expensive than money, and that is your value system. So they knew very well that the mother would buff them up and hit them rather than take the money.
Yes, it certainly tells a lot about the character of Sonia. And in my exuberance to read, I skipped Leslie Ann. So now I want to go back to Leslie Ann, ask Leslie Ann to read Uncle Karen Leaves. Leslie, are you there now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Leslie Ann, sorry, I don't know what was the problem just now. We were just not getting on. So Leslie Ann will read Uncle Karen Leaves. Go ahead, take it away.
Yes. Extract 9, Uncle Karen Leaves. All this caroling happened on a Friday, the day when cane workers received their fortnightly pay. It was also a day when shopkeepers waited impatiently for customers to continue paying their huge bill for goods, which were given to them during the rainy season, the season of few working days. That evening, Sonia said to Dolly, "I'm sure he come in 2 o'clock in the morning, stone drunk as usual." "Yeah, that's the time he does come home when everybody's sleeping," Dolly said. "And he making noise like hell, noise to wake up people. I wish he stopped this drinking and start seeing about his wife and children, yes? And Nelly's so sick. I don't know what to say." Sonia looked down, and shook her head up and down, her hair falling on the sides of her face. Karen lucky it wasn't Mango, else he would get 2 good slap on his face. Mango not like Auntie Mama and Ban, Mango is a terror when he ready. At about 4 o'clock, Karen unexpectedly returned home. He smiled with Sonia and headed straight to the bathroom near the almond tree. Then he returned swiftly with a towel in his hand, drying his wavy hair. He looked at his sister straight in her eyes. "You can make a roti for me?" I going to see Nelly. With those words, he began to cry. Only when he sobbed out loud did Sonia notice. He was leaning forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his head in his intertwined fingers under his chin. He looked a worried figure with his dark sunburned face, his wavy hair grey in small patches. He heard the tapping of the horse on the road and knew it was looking for something to eat, and he began to cry even more. Dolly felt sorry for Karen and rushed in the kitchen. Ma, I could help. I'll go see about the roti. And I could make some tomato choka with bird pepper to go with it. Actually, Dolly wanted to sit with Karen, so she was releasing her. Yeah, that would be good, thanks. Sonia wiped a tear from her right eye when she reached him. She put her arm around his shoulder. It's okay. She go be all right. I'm praying for she. You sure, Sonia? You sure? She's my eyeball, you know. Yes, Karen, Sonia said. Look how long now she ain't see you, eh? You're right. It's so long I can't remember self. Karen squeezed one nostril and blew through the other. It's so long I ain't seen Nelly. It could add up to months or even years. Yes, Karen, Sonia said. It's such a long time, but once she see you, she go be all right. There was a bit of silence between the two. They seemed to be both thinking, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Karen withdrew a $10 bill from a small brown envelope from his right pants pocket. Here, take this. He pushed the note towards his sister. It's all right, Karen. It's all right. I have enough right now. No, take it. Not today. Next time. That night, Karen hired a car to take him to see Nelly. That day was the last day he stayed with his sister and her family. He returned the next day, packed his clothes in his knapsack and new grip, and said to Sonia, I'm going back. The children missing me like hell. And for the children's sake, I'm going to make up with corn. She and she family miserable, but Nelly is my eyeball. I have to see about them, children. Because if anything happened to them, I go can't live. He sat down on the same bench and cried again. You'll tell Ban for me now. I afraid to go and tell him. Nelly is my eyeball. Nelly. He rested his chin in his cupped hands and cried again. It's all right. I'll go tell him. Tell him I'm glad he come. Tell him I'm going to live Lamberta. That is very good, Karen. Mai go be happy when she hear this. Karen wiped her streaming tear, ate a piece of roti and tomato choker and left. Sonia saw him enter the hired car on the hill and wept. He really loved Nelly, she said to herself, and she too wept. Sonia said to her children, your Uncle Ban will be well pleased to hear this. Karen and Nelly is like ring on finger, like finger and ring. He go be so glad he and his wife make up, at least for the children's sake. Never mind, poor miserable families. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie Ann, for that lovely reading. It's always a pleasure to have Leslie Ann and Natasha with us, and we hope that they would continue to grace us with their presence. One thing I want to comment on, there's that expression there in that piece, for the children's sake. And in my experience, again in my village, because the village that Vishnu is writing about is not much different from mine. And although I would remember the 60s and Vishnu is probably writing about the 50s, it didn't change much. And you would hear that expression because sometimes these fellas would come home drunk and beat their wife, and the wife would leave and go back to their mother's or father's home. And then they would have the pleadings, the apologies and the pleadings, and the wife will go back home and they say they're going back for the children's sake, and it go happen again. So I just thought that I should mention that. And again, I invite comments on Leslie Ann's piece.
Well, I mean, Mutila, Leslie Ann and Natasha and all of the readings, I mean, it's just really wonderful. And I mean, I'm glad that you add that in. I mean, what I like also about the scene too is that you saw his vulnerability, that you saw him crying and getting to a place where he recognizes that he misses his wife. But that added piece, I think, was really important. What you said, I mean, I haven't read the whole the novel, so I don't know if that's part of it. But what you added in terms of there was also a certain level of abuse that that happens in situations like that. And I was also kind of thinking also of what is the woman's role. Is there a double standard between the woman and the man, their role? And what I like about this also is that Sonia is a strong woman, and that's no matter what, she is going to be who she is. I come from three sisters, I have a family of four women and raised by a pretty strong woman. So I very much relate to the whole thing of moving through no matter what. But anyway, it's really lovely. And yes, your reading is really good, Mutilal.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to add also that in this case, it was the man going back, and Vishnu did a good job there in showing sometimes, with Karan crying, that sometimes women try not to show emotion and all that. So that was a good thing that Vishnu did, and it was a good thing to see that Karan crying. So before we move along, any other comments, please? Okay, well, if there's no other comment, I see that I am slated to read again because I read RC's piece earlier. And my piece is extracting Punga and the village horse. So here goes. There were 4 holes, and the villagers agreed Punga shot the horse 4 times with his illegal gun. It was said too that he did not shoot the horse to kill it immediately, but he wanted it to suffer. He shot it at 4 different angles and then left it to bleed to death. No one was willing to confront him because he had easy access to a gun, and so they feared him. Gun or no gun, I going for him, Garib said. I was surrounded by gun in jail, and I wasn't afraid. More than 30 people joined Garib, determined to have this horse killer brought to justice. I don't afraid anybody, Garib said, walking ahead of the group. Not one soul. Amidst shout and accusation, never before heard in this village, the people reached the suspected killer's house. There they nabbed him and lifted him high above their shoulders, his body horizontal. We're going by the river, so you will see Varna's ashes floating down, one leader said. The pundit had a sense of apprehension. He feared the villagers would lynch Ponga, and they in turn would be called murderers. He sent someone to fetch the police urgently. The police were long in coming, and by this time, the aggrieved villagers had reached the river. The pundit here, Sonia, Mahes, and the hundreds of concerned villagers had also reached the men in whose hands the fate of the horse killer rested. No one except the pundit seemed to be cool and calm. The villagers would be held accountable for the horse killer's death, and he did not want such a weight on his mind, so they must be stopped. Matters were definitely getting out of control. It seemed pretty clear to him that murder would be committed. Two men lifted the horse killer's feet above the water, while two others pushed his head down as close as possible to the water. This is not the right thing to do, Sonia said. Yes, it should not end like this. It would not look good on the village, he said. If this happened, it would be the first murder in the village, the pundit said. This mustn't happen. They were standing on the banks of the river, while the 249 angry, hurt villagers were standing in the river with the horse killer. The pundit knew they would listen to him, especially since he was the head of the panchayat. He was making his way to the men who were holding the horse high up. Who was holding the horse killer high up above the rippling waters. He sensed the men's intentions. They would speed dive him into the water, and if he hit the mud and he was stuck, he could be drowned before one could say Jack Robinson. And many were asking him aloud, you see the ashes? Smell it too. You shoot the horse? You use the horse, Father? You have to be mad to do something like that. The horse do you or your family anything? To the numerous questions thrown at him, the horse killer simply said, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. No one heard him. No one wanted to hear him. Even though the men were determined to carry out this one act for justice, they kept their eyes on the pundit. He had the final say, and he too wanted justice. The pundit stretched his hands and moved them up and down, up and down. The men understood and kept slamming the horse killer into the water and out, into the water and out, into the water and out. The crowd roared its approval. The police siren burst through the noisy air, and all the activities were suspended, but the horse killer remained high above the water, firmly in the iron grip of the men. He did not hear the siren, but he heard a hush in the crowd and wondered if he was breathing his last before he was thrown into the deep. The men straightened their arms, which pushed the horse killer a little higher so that he was able to see around him. He saw heads, angry shouting heads, and knew there was no escape for him. He was not sure what was happening, and he kept looking frantically around, trying to wriggle himself out of this vice at the same time. It was at this timely moment the police arrived at the edge of the water. Angry though they were, the villagers knew the police would eventually take him in their custody. Someone cuffed him solidly on his face, sending his dentures flying in the water. As the police approached, the men released him, his stomach hitting the rippling surface, shooting water on all sides, even on the police. The act completed, the men walked away. Pitch you, they said. You're damn lucky. Damn lucky the police come. At the police station in Windsor Town, one policeman holding Ponga in handcuffs said, you have to tell us about that gun you used. We need to know all about it. But no, but here, the officer said, bring your tail in the police station next Tuesday and tell us about the gun you used. But, I don't talk, the policeman said. And if you feel you'll run away and we wouldn't find you, you're making a big mistake. Just get to the station and tell us all about the gun. All right? All right, sir. Meanwhile, the superintendent said to the horse killer, we don't know if we can charge you under any law, not right now. He smiled wryly. Take my advice. Do not return to that village. Those villagers would not spare you. And I can guarantee you we will be there to protect you again. Take a pick, it's your choice. Escape as fast as possible. Ponga, now humbled by his experience, never returned to Esperanza again. So thank you. That was the extract 10, Ponga and the Village Force. So we'd like to have some comments, please. No, not yet. Yes. Okay, we have some comments before we move along. Yes, go ahead,
Yeah.
Althea.
Yes, I'm curious. So the villagers were trying to kill the horse killer, and the police came and let him go. So the police were not, I thought they would arrest him and and take him to the police station. So it seemed as though the police were not supporting, well, they were not supporting justice. The villagers would have drowned him or whatever, but then the police let him go. So there's a conflict of interest there,
Okay.
which I feel the police were not supporting the villagers by arresting him. So yeah,
Okay.
it's just an
Let
interesting
me
conflict there.
let me give you a little background there. Okay,
Yeah.
this was a horse that didn't have any owner. And
Oh,
used to
okay.
just be wandering in the village, and everybody used to
Yeah,
feed the horse and they like the horse and all that.
yeah,
And this guy, because of his wickedness or what else, he shot the horse. And what the
yeah,
police is saying that they did not know what charge they could bring to him for shooting the horse. Okay, if it was a man, it would have been murder. So I suppose that
yeah.
is what there. But I don't know if Vishnu want to give us a little explanation here, Vish. Comment, Vish, you need to unmute. Vishnu, you need to unmute. Vishnu, you need to unmute, please. Oh God, let me see. Vish, unmute.
And we can talk about that later.
Okay, Vishnu, are you here?
Yeah, you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now. Go ahead.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, Vish, go ahead.
Yes.
We hear you.
The thing about it, there were no laws. The police didn't know which law to apply to charge him for killing an animal. And that was the problem there. Plus, when they took him from the river, the police were actually rescuing him from the villagers. But having taken him away from the river, from that area, they didn't know what to do. So the best thing for him to do was leave. That's what they were doing.
But didn't he have?
Remember,
I suppose they wanted to charge him for the illegal gun.
But he said he will tell them. That wasn't important to the story itself. So I didn't want to tell the story.
Okay.
Remember, we are before time.
Let me just say,
Okay, Chris, go
some
ahead.
sort of justice was meted out when he had to leave the village and never return to that village. And I don't think the villagers would have killed him. Of course, that is Vishnu's fictional work, right? Villagers wouldn't kill you. Villagers would threaten you. They would dunk him, put him in the water, raise up, threaten to kill him, but the whole thing is to scare him to death. Which is what they did. They scared him to death. And on top of that, the police also told him that they can't protect him. And it was good, it's justice to me that he left the village because it was a village horse. That was one instance where, as I will talk later on, where the village got a life of its own. That is what Vishnu created in Esperanza. Esperanza. The village became a life of its as a character.
Okay. That's right. So, okay, thank you, Krish, and Althea. Hope that shed some light for you, and know that you have an insight
Well,
about
yeah. I
Auntie
I didn't think he was a member of the village. I thought he was some strange person passing by who shot the horse.
No, he
So
was
I'm
a member
quite
of the village.
surprised that he was a member of the village and he did that, you know. Anyway.
So now that we have piqued your curiosity, I'm sure you're going to order the book on Amazon. Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, now that you have learned a bit about Auntie Mama.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'll ask you, Althea, to read for us the climax. Go ahead, Althea.
Okay. So this is extract 11, the climax. Meanwhile, his mother was talking to Auntie Mama in her bedroom. It's true, I telling you, Auntie Mama said. It's true. Butch wife throw me out the house. Get out, you old dog. Get out, you old bitch. Auntie Mama was in tears. And my husband built that house, but stranger come to live and throw me out. Never hear more. This generation, me tell you, throw you out the house, eh? Your own house? That self. And with me good mind, I put the house on Butch name. Put the house on Butch name? Did he? Yes, me do that. I say he's the biggest, and he go see about the rest of them. And where was he when she drive you out? Sonia's voice rose way above Auntie Mama's own. He wasn't home? Yes, he was home. And what he do, eh? What he do? He stand up in the shop and hear everything Fuller say. And he ain't say a word, not a word. Auntie Mama paused. She well tie up his foot and hand, so that is why he can't talk. It's like he does get stupid when she close by. Sonia said, he have no sense. Kick out his own mother. Imagine that, nah? Imagine that. Kick out his own mother. Me can't believe it myself, Auntie Mama said. Look at me, cross. Look at me, cross now. Me now in the street like a beggar. Anyway, stay for the night, and tomorrow we're going St. Anne's band. St. Anne's. Band not there, Karen not there. The house big and empty. Auntie Mama took some minutes before she added anything. Made it tell me one time, she said, when you get them boy married, let them go and they turn own pot. You go miss your children. They go miss you too, but it better so. Let them paddle their own boat. Auntie Mama paused. Me did think Butch was different, but he is the same like all of them. Hulu turn up, Butch head bad. Later that day, Chris said to Dads, one day the fellas tell me something in the factory. They say, you just like your father. What? You just like Pa? How? You can't be like Pa. You lazy. You don't plant garden. Shut up and listen now. Okay, Bray. One fella say, long time parts used to come from England. And so the factory had to depend on England to get parts to keep the factory going. So, what's wrong in that? Now, with new lats and thing, I'm making all the parts, all, and that making the factory independent, Chris said. We don't have to wait again till England send the parts by boat. Oh, all right. You know what that mean? Chris looked at Dad, but got no answer. It mean I am the person who will make the factory run without anybody helping. Real skills there, Chris, Dad said. Now I know you like Pa, who make the vroom vroom stove that Ma sell. That is why one day I go open my own machine shop. I want to paddle my own boat. Pa spend his life working for people, but I want to work for myself. In Sando Tech, my new sir say we should open our own business. The old ones say we should work for people, cause we ain't have the brains to run business. I want to be my own boss. So nobody gonna make me scrub this step and paint the chair when I should be learning motor mechanic. So I go save and save and save till I get enough to buy my first lathe. This is the machine that does make parts, Chris paused. So Dad's in high school. You go learn maths and how to run business, and I go making parts for all of them factories and them. Right, Chris, right. Pa would have liked that, Dad said. Like father, like son, and brother. The two of we teaming up together doing business. Imagine that, nah? Imagine a sign saying, Jerram Brothers. Oh, right, yes, Dad's pause. But you think that could happen? What about the parlor girl? Boy, shut up now. I talking serious business. Okay, Mr. Chris. Chris said nothing immediately, but with a smile on his face, he said, the way we go know is to find out. And that mean give it a good try. You mean like next month, Dad said? Nah, we have to finish school first, he said. And then we go be older, so we will know a lot of things we didn't know now. You're right, Ban was overhearing them said. Everything does take time. Your father would have really liked that. He two big son doing a business together and working like a family. He would smile day and night. Chris said, yeah, how we did work together one time. What you mean, Dad said. When the two of we pushing box cart and shouting, and together they said, Fig, Edos, Allo. And the two laughed out loud, knowing they should have said, potatoes. Sonia did not know Dads had returned home as yet. When she heard, Fig, Edos, Allo, she and Auntie Mama rushed outside. You reach back already, boy? Yes, Ma. Long time now. You pass? better than pass, Ma. What happened? I win the scholarship, so I going to high school. Really? A scholarship? Yes, Ma. Oh God, Dad, I'm so glad for you. So glad for you. Your father would be real happy. I know he would be real happy. Sonia dried her eyes. She hugged Chris and Dad and Dolly and said, "You see, Ratan? You see? You children doing well. You would be real happy for them. Now we have to make sure we still do the good things we always do." "I'm so glad for Dad's," quietly she said to herself. I hope he learned to stop cussing. He have to come bright, and bright people don't cuss. She looked at Dad's as though she were praying for him. "I know, Dad's, you will do good. And when you do good, all others will do good. And you and Chris will team up. And once you help one another, this family bound to do better." Sonia wiped the steaming tears off her cheeks. She had shed many tears hidden from her children, but today there was no withholding the flow. There was an unmeasurable joy in her heart, and she exclaimed, "You see, Ratan? You see?" Okay, so that's the end of my bit.
Thank you, Althea. You know, you always bring so much value to our meetings. We so love to have you here. Thanks for doing an excellent job, and I will ask for comments at this time. Okay, so nobody thinks that Auntie Mama got her just desserts?
Well, yes, well, poor Auntie Mama, I think now she has to depend on her sister to support her. And well, what you say, your behavior comes back to bite you. She didn't
Karma.
think her children needed an education, and now she can see that Auntie Mama, although things that her sister Sonia, although things were very difficult, they
In the beginning.
struggled, and they forged ahead, and in the end, they were successful.
Okay, I see Vishnu raising his hand. Yeah, go ahead, Vish.
I didn't know that that ending would have moved me so much, hearing somebody else read it. Are you hearing me?
Loud and
Yes.
clear. Go ahead.
I didn't think the ending would have moved me so much, hearing somebody else read it. And I'm getting to the emotion of the main characters, Sonia, and the children there, and the success that came to them after a long struggle. I know it's a story I had to write. It's just I couldn't escape it. It's partly
Okay.
autobiographical, it's part
Okay.
but I'm glad I wrote it. That's the main thing. And I want to thank everybody else who read, and I enjoyed it, listening to reading it. And the first I'm hearing somebody reading my own work there. From the beginning to the end, I think I enjoyed it. Particularly the ending of the story, climax of the story was what was really moving me. I know my sister, when she read the story, she said she almost cried.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, Vish, thank you. And we have one more piece again. Although we are 3 o'clock, but we have a very important piece with a very important man. So now Krishna Samaru will do an overview. Krish, come in, please.
Yeah, well, thank you. People, in the course of the readings now, people were sensing and saying some significant things. Okay, so this is an overview. I don't review. I have to emphasize that. A review is a different thing. A review is you evaluate a work and so on. I am not evaluating, I'm just giving like a synopsis, an overview. So for a country rich in natural resources, gas and oil rich since the 70s, a great many of Trinidad's citizens live in poverty, some below the poverty line. That holds for today as much as it held for the time in which Vishnu Gosain's novel Sonia is set. But this is a novel of hope. It is set in the village of Esperanza. Esperanza means hope. It tells the story of Sonia Jairam, the fictional equivalent of the author's mother, Kesa Jaikaran Maharaj. Sonia, our protagonist, is born to a large family in St. Anne's village near Windsor town. That is the fictional equivalent of Kuva. She's the daughter of Jaiku, and I don't know if it's Bachania or Bacania. I heard Frank saying Bacania. I don't know. Vishnu is the one to tell us. Bachania or Bacania. But this Bachania is 70 years old when Sonia has her first child. She remains distant in the background throughout the course of the novel until we surmise that she has died when we reach the climax that Althea just read. Jaiku, on the other hand, is often remembered as an excellent fisherman. The Gulf of Paria offered villagers like Esperanza this occupation. We know Kali Bay had this famous jetty. Among the children of the couple of Jaiku and Bachania, there is the eldest, Manko. There is Ban, there's Karan, there's Haida, there's Auntie Mama, and of course, Sonia. Sonia gets married to Ratan Jairam. Ratan is the fictional equivalent of the author's father, Ramsamugh Guru Gosain. And Sonia moves from Windsor town, Cuba proper, to nearby Esperanza village, Esperance. Now, the village of Esperance is recreated through some description, but largely through narration. And I like how Vishnu did it, because he would have things like Prada's yard. They go into Prada's yard, Prem Chand's house, Sau's shop, Ramnani's boli tree, Dubra's house, Ramadan's house, and so on. You know, without describing what part of the village they are, he makes references to these, and so we get a sense of the village, because it's not a small village, it's extended. And of course, I just said this village takes on a character of its own, with the episode involving the justice meted out to the person who killed the horse. Now, the interest of this novel has to do with the way Sonia manages to raise a family of 8 as a single mother, as if this is a new phenomenon. After the untimely death of her husband, Ratan Jairam, that she manages to do this in trying circumstances attests to her heroism. the day-to-day eking out of ways to survive is one that many Trinidadians or those in similar circumstances can readily identify with. After the death of her husband, to me, the catalyst event of this novel, the death of her husband, help comes to Sonia in the form of a special request from wealthy relatives from Tumpuna to have the care of one or more of Sonia's brood handed over to them. This is something that many families of that era, and perhaps even now, have had to weigh heavily on their mind. But this Sonia vehemently refused, vowing to do whatever it takes to mind all of her children for herself. A most courageous decision. Some might even tempted to call it stupid as Auntie Mama, but not Sonia. As if this challenge was not enough, her problematic brother, Karan, at the same time as the death of the husband, the same time he abandons his wife and 6 children to come and live with his sister. It happens with family. And you know, sometimes they stay and you want to know when they're leaving and you don't ask them. A month will pass, 2 months pass, 3 months pass. In this case, he stays in the household for nearly 2 years. 2 years, you know, as a nagging liability. It is only when he learns of one of his children's serious illness, that's his favorite Nelly, that he makes the crucial decision of his life to reconcile with his wife's rich and famous family in Champlain. I leave it to you to think, who is this family? Vishnu. And so he reinstates himself as the husband of his wife, known as Auntie Corn. I can understand that name. Eh? I find it's an unusual name, Auntie Corn, in Lamberta. Lamberta, of course, I assume to be Mount Lambert, right, which is on the east-west corridor. Now, in total contrast to Karan is the brother of Sonia named Ban. So you see, this is about a family. The novel engages the reader with issues relating to a family. Ban comes across as responsible and respectable, as is Sonia herself. He is gainfully employed in Lamberta as a watchman, still gainfully employed. A watchman turned security officer for over 20 years in a manufacturing business of lesser known cosmetic products called Pretty Industries Limited. Now it is Ban, more than anyone else, who gives aid and comfort to his sister, Sonia, after the death of Ratan. So you see, that's why I say that's the catalyst event. After the death of Ratan, Ban makes it his duty to visit regularly on a Tuesday every fortnight. And that is what, you know, family, that's the bond of family. Someone makes a decision to do something like that. On these visits, his hand was weighted down, as Frank remarked earlier on, with parcels of pastries and sweets. Sonia was ecstatic and full of life whenever he visited. It is Ban who is instrumental in getting his problematic brother. Karan is like the black sheep now, you know? We have the black sheep of the family. To cut his stay with their sister and return to his family by knocking some sense in his head. Fittingly, at the climax of the story, which Althea read, but there was a part before that, it is Ban who mysteriously appears in the school of Windsor Town High when dads went to check on the results of the scholarship examination he had taken. And therefore it was Ban, the first to offer congratulations. That is very significant. And so in so many families, there is always one, in contrast to the black sheep, who can be relied upon as a rock of stability. And that is what Ban is. He's like the rock of Gibraltar, I have heard people say, use that expression. Now, if the author, Vishnu, pairs of the brothers, Ban and Karan, and I suppose it's significant that their names rhyme, as opposites of the same blood and flesh, it could be said that he does the same with his sisters, Sonia and the one called Auntie Mama. They are contrasted in several ways. While Sonia is married to a machinist who works in BC refinery, Auntie Mama is married to a Hindu priest, Pandit Anand. Where Sonia, especially after her husband's death, had to be very frugal in her spending as she was living a life of deprivation with her children, Auntie Mama had her son running a shop in a section of the building in which she resided. While the sisters often visited each other, Auntie Mama, who was the first to become a widow, couldn't help berating her sister at times for making a string band of children. Moreover, Sonia came to realize that her husband had run up quite a huge bill of credit at Auntie Mama's shop, something that Butch, Auntie Mama's son, in charge of the shop, wasn't going to let his Auntie Sonia forget that easily. There's another feature of family where you are at the mercy financially of a relative, and they really grind you into the dust. But life has a way of rewarding us with poetic justice. Right, Althea? That's the poetic justice. Bit by bit, it was discovered that Butch was in fact ruled by his trendy wife, Hulu. The upshot of it climaxes in a reversal of fortunes for the two sisters, where Sonia is delightful over the news of her son's success in the scholarship exam, and therefore the first of the family to begin secondary education. Auntie Mama informs her that she has been booted out of her home by her son, to whom she had signed over her property. Sonia reassures her that since their family home in St. Anne's was big and empty, perhaps she could move in there to live. There is the understanding that Bacania, whom we met on a couple of occasions, had also passed away. Now, of Sonia's brood of 7 children, focus is limited or narrowed to 3. Dolly, the father's pet, whom he used to refer to as his Bilar, Chris, and Dads. There are many episodes in which Sonia is peripheral to the narratives involving these 3, as there are in which she is the central figure as ever-present mother. Chris is offered a chance to go beyond the primary level of education, but because of financial constraints, he has to join the workforce. And that's another theme of this novel. Education is a central theme of the novel, where the author presents education. Well, we all know this as a way out of poverty, as a way out of deprivation, a way out of traditional occupations, transcending the barriers of plantation life. Apprenticed to an auto mechanic shop, that is Chris, in Windsor town through a favor of the village pundit, Chris learns nothing about the mechanic work and becomes, in fact, a house servant of the mechanic's wife. Soon he joins the workforce in the sugar estate factory, Wayne Cane. But a greater opportunity comes his way when he is sent to study machine work at the Technical Night School in San Fernando Technical Institute, with the hope of one day becoming an engineer like his father, who, though one, was unacknowledged as such, unacknowledged as an engineer. Dolly, the most mature of the children, seems to accept her place in the household as following in the footsteps of her mother, especially after the death of her father. But she too is given a chance to transcend that role through her enrollment, following the footsteps of her cousin Butch, in the commercial school of Ghani's Commercial School in Windsor town, hoping to qualify as a secretary or bookkeeper and to land a position in the administrative office of the sugar factory. With the fear of fellow villagers like Timothy Bujan becoming friendly with her and indulging in sexual encounters, there was also an urgent mission to get Dolly married as early as possible. After searching for a suitable mate, it was Auntie Mama who found a husband for Dolly. That person was Duke's cousin, somebody called Duke's cousin. Duke's himself being a cousin of the deceased husband of Auntie Mama. This Duke's cousin was running an estate with cocoa and coffee and fig in Guayco. It was agreed that once she had completed her studies, that is Dolly, at the commercial school, Dolly would marry Duke's cousin. So there's a way out for her as well. Of special interest to the author, and therefore the reader, and to us at Poetry and Prose, is the third child of the family, Dads. We find out his name is Jagdev Jairam, for sure, the fictional equivalent of V. Ramsamuj Gosain. When his father Ratan died, Dads was 12 years old. Throughout the novel, focus is given to the interaction of Dads and his friends, two in particular, Boone and Maro, as much as his interaction with his siblings. A lot of the humor of this work, you notice the work is replete with humor, right? A lot of the humor of this work is to be found in the episodes involving the interaction of Dads and Dolly and Chris. When Dads is interacting with his friends, there is much that points to the novel as a coming-of-age piece of work, but the novel really spans a 2-year period. For the end of the novel, we learn that Dads is 14 years. So it is not so much a coming-of-age as a focus on Sonia. In as much as the novel closes with Dads winning a scholarship to be the first in the family to enter secondary school, it is worth the while of the reader to trace the progress and development of Dads. In the beginning, he's portrayed as happily running around, carefree, and without any sort of responsibility. He's the comical one among the kids. He is the one who associates with the fearsome Timothy Bujan. Feared for his outspoken outlook on things, it is Dads to whom the focus turns when the family fails to finance the secondary education of Chris. Interestingly enough, both Chris and Dads indicated that their ambition in being educated at the secondary level was so that they could become a teacher, citing their father as their role model, as he had intention of building a school with a village friend named Haida. Dads hated the idea of finding work in the sugar estate, and worse yet, becoming a mechanic. He gets a job delivering mails. With the visit of the headmaster, Mr. Henry, to his home, he's encouraged to write a scholarship exam for the high school in Windsor. In that, he's successful in not only passing the exam, but winning the only scholarship. He becomes the first in the family to attend a high school. His ambition is to one day become a teacher. Should that be the case, he would be the first teacher in Esperanza. Well, V. Ramsamuj Gosain did become a teacher, fulfilling what his fictional character, Jagdev Jairam, dreamed of becoming. Congratulations, Vishnuji, on your work. Congratulations on being author of the month for November. I thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Krish. Thank you, Krish. You know,
Yeah,
I always say that Krish is
you're welcome.
Poetry and Prose professor of literature,
No,
you know,
I
for his insightful commentary and analysis. Thank you again, Krish.
I was a reader, very good at reading, right? I enjoy reading.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, so oh boy, we're a little past our usual closing time, but we cannot close before hearing a little bit from our author of the month, Mr. V. Ramsamush gun is go sign. Vish, you want to talk to us a little bit before we close?
Yeah, we could do that. You hear me?
Yes, Vish, we hear you loud and clear. Right, go ahead. Go ahead, Vish, we're hearing you. Vish? Okay, we seem to be having some problems in getting Vishnu.
Need to unmute.
Okay, go ahead, Vish.
All right, first to begin with, I enjoyed the reading. Actually, it's first time hearing somebody read my work, and
go ahead.
You lost him. You
Okay, we
lost
seem
him,
to have
Moti.
lost. Okay,
he's
we
back.
seem to have lost
No, he's back.
Vishnu, go ahead.
Moti is back.
Okay, you need to unmute.
all right, let me be
Vishnu, you need to unmute.
I did. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm pretty happy with the reading, and I'm glad people read nicely as they did and brought the story to life, and I'm very pleased about that. All the readings by everyone. So thank you once more again, Poetry and Prose, for making me your author of the month, November, and I will always remember that. And bringing it to life, really. Okay, thank you. All the best.
Okay, thank you, Vish, and I hope that this reading would increase your sales. So people go on Amazon and order Vishnu's book or contact Vishnu, please.
Hey, thanks. Okay.
Thank you, because I read the book and I probably went try to read it too quick to get to the end, but hearing these readings today would take me right back to go and do it a little more slowly. So once again, thanks to everybody for coming today, and thanks especially to Vishnu for giving us the opportunity to read from his book. And I want to say a special thanks to Krishna, because it's Krishna who chose all these pieces, chose all these extracts. And it was certainly well done. It gave us a good idea what the book is about, and it brought the book to life. So thanks again, Krishna. Thanks to everybody, and well, good afternoon, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Take care.
Yes. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night, Altia.
Good night.
Okay, so anybody want to chat a little bit before we go? All right, Ms. Gusha has been telling me that we're looking at the 1st of December for our
Christmas.
Our dinner. So if anybody want to attend, any suggestion, anything, please just contact me or Gusha. Okay, so if there's anything, well, I'll look into go and look for some lunch now.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Willett, thanks, Cynthia, thanks, Vish, thanks, Heather, and take care.
Okay, bye.
Everybody.